Well, welcome to another Psalm of the Day, and today it's Psalm 15. And of course, today we commemorate VE Day. 75 years ago, victory over the Nazis and their allies was declared and celebrated. Hitler's dark shadow had loomed over Europe for nearly 6 years, and at the height of his powers, he had enjoyed retreating to his home, a castle in Bavaria called the Berghof. Who could join him there? Well, here he would gather his generals, their wives and children and his staff, all the people who shared his vision and values of violence and oppression. In Psalm 15, David asks the Lord, "Who can stay in your house? Who can dwell on your holy mountain?" In other words, what kind of people does the Lord delight in? The answer is given with 10 characteristics, some positive, who speaks the truth from their heart, some negative, who does no wrong to a neighbour. And what are we to make of this list? It's a bit like the 10 Commandments. Well, firstly, I think they tell us what the Lord is like. They reflect his values and character. Isn't it great to be reminded that the Lord is holy, righteous and truthful? Isn't it a mercy to know that he keeps his oath? He doesn't change his mind. He shows compassion for the poor and vindicates the innocent. That's the kind of God he is. He determines what is good in this world. And that's why Nazism could be declared evil for all its horrendous hatred and harm. But the list of ethics also points us to Jesus of Nazareth. As we see his life and character in the Gospels, we see someone who fits this description perfectly. His way of life was blameless. He did what was righteous. He spoke the truth from his heart, and he did no wrong to his neighbour. He kept his word. He cared for the poor. He rejected the flattery of the powerful. No wonder God could say of Jesus, "This is my Son, whom I love. With him I am well pleased." Oh, if anyone deserves to dwell with God in his presence, it's Jesus. God has raised him and seated him at his right hand. But this list also has something to say to us. As Jesus calls us to trust and to follow him, one of the pictures he uses is of a vine and its branches. I am the vine, you are the branches. If you remain in me and I in you, you will bear much fruit. Apart from me, you can do nothing. The qualities mentioned in Psalm 15 are repeated in the New Testament as the fruits of the Spirit, or the characteristics of Christ to be developed in us as his people. One writer says, the 10 commandments of Psalm 15 are not conditions for people who want to belong, but descriptions of people who do belong. Young Germans, in order to belong to the Third Reich, joined the Hitler Youth movement, wore the uniform, and were encouraged with an almost religious devotion to the Führer. "I belong to Adolf Hitler, body and soul," recalled one young man. And the fruits of fascism were bitter and barbaric. Thankfully, Hitler and his kingdom were shaken and fell. But God calls us into the kingdom of his Son. He calls us to give ourselves to Jesus Christ. And as we do so, his Spirit develops in us the beautiful qualities outlined here in Psalm 15 and in the Beatitudes and the letters of the Apostles. And the psalm concludes with the statement, "Whoever does these things will never be shaken." And that's because we belong to the kingdom of God, which cannot be shaken. So may God help us to keep close to Christ and to bear his fruit more and more, to his glory and honour. Amen.